First off, I really got to give it to the scan site, and I think a lot of you know what it is. Starts with the T, I guess. They did a super good job on this on the translations, and it really gives you a great understanding, or at least a better understanding of the different concepts that are going on. And to be honest, I really don't want to get into it. I think you should read this chapter thoroughly yourself, because I just want to get into Yuki Tsukumo's power. I wasn't expecting this. I thought her flying Shikigami, cursed spirit that's flying around, would be something just absolutely insane. And we still don't know what it can do, but we know it also has the properties of mass, right? So this is a special chapter. I want to go through it here, right? So let's just go from the top. Okay. So we get Choso falling into nothingness, and I'll explain the nothingness of this place, right? It's essentially a void that they're in. But she basically is like, I'm about to beat you up. So apparently her technique isn't in any textbooks or documents, since she's been labeled a special grade, right? And what we know by special grade is that she can destroy a country. So he summons the Buddha that we saw in the US, and we get a little bit more explanation on the powers, right? A curse from an Asian god that can remove any obstacle. So that kind of goes into what was happening with some of the soldiers and them floating. That kind of fell along with this power. Yes, a special grade cursed spirit, one that can entangle a concept with its technique's target. So let me read that again. One that can entangle a concept with its technique's target. So basically ignoring certain properties, certain laws, right? He summons this thing. She says Garuda, and Garuda, translated, is basically a giant divine bird. That's what a Garuda is. So this thing folds into a ball. She grits her teeth and kicks it, and I was like, okay, is she like some kind of, I thought she'd be one of those people where it's like she like bounces the ball around, and the faster it goes, it, gains more speed and does more damage. But no, she completely obliterates this thing, the Buddha. And to make her technique more powerful, she explains, hey, what do you think my power is? Well, I'll tell you, mass. That's simple. It's like Toto, really simple. Toto claps his hands, he can switch, right? Even though, technically he doesn't have to clap his hands. But simple, that's it, mass. And this is where it gets interesting. She punches the hell out of Kenjaku, breaks his arm in the process, punches him all the way through this little area that they're in, that Tengen lives in. And listen to this, right? This is what's so crazy. And this is due to the explanation of the translations at the end of the chapter. So again, if you want to know more, you really got to read it. And read the explanations from the site. So that hit me so hard it tore a hole in the Sunyata barrier circulation definition. So basically this Sunyata barrier is Tengen's area, but what he means, he's so surprised by that because it's basically emptiness. So the place, he was punched so hard that it led to emptiness. As in, he should have kept going and going and going, but he was punched so hard, the mass that was in that punch, that she broke reality. And the result of breaking reality was the emptiness, was the bare of reality itself, which is nothing, emptiness. And he's like, mass, huh? And then he says, that's the technique's target concept. Such overwhelming mass to a point that its concept couldn't be contained semantically or pragmatically. So, semantically, it's mass, right? Something simple. Um, Mass is something that's in everybody. As momentum moves, depending on the mass of the object, it can affect you more than something with less mass can. Now, that's what it is semantically. Pragmatically, they explain at the end of the chapter, but that's just trying to conceptualize and give examples of what that is. And the reason why she is dangerous is because I'll let her explain it. That's my curse technique. Imbuing virtual mass into myself. Bombaye. Virtual mass, not real mass, virtual. So she imbues so much mass into her tiny body that it's to a point where you can't even conceive how powerful it is. It's dangerous, extremely dangerous. Like extremely dangerous. She can have the mass of a meteor and punch you. It's just concepts that just you can't really give a logical explanation for, because it doesn't make sense, because she's a small person, right? She's this woman, and she could have the mass of, who knows, right? Whatever she can conceive, I'm guessing, in her head. So that's what makes this dangerous. And the name of her power is Bomboye. And now Garuda reads Wrath of the Star. Keep that in mind. Garuda is a Shikigami that has been turned into a curse tool by my curse technique. So her curse technique turned this Shikigami, or turned this curse spirit, into a curse technique, or excuse me, a curse tool. So this is her personal tool. It flies around her. So now we know the purpose of this thing. And she says it's the only other target of Bombaye besides me. So pretty simple. Mass. She's got a Shikigami. She can punt around, and I'm sure there's other things this thing can do too. But both are dangerous, right? And then Kenjaku, thinking about everything, heals himself. She hasn't gotten any slower, so I can assume the added mass has no real effect on the sorcerer. That's what's scary. That's what I was talking about. Scary, scary power. And yeah, I'm just glad we finally got a power. It's simple, but it's interesting. And then she goes on to explain that the power she saw was gravity, and she kind of breaks it down to, he's got 3 techniques, right? He's got curse spirit manipulation, the body hopping, and then the gravity is the 3rd technique. And she's thinking if he used Uzumaki to extract other techniques, that could be a possibility. Because she mentions the curse technique extracted by Uzumaki have to be single use only, since he didn't use idle transfiguration that has already been revealed to me, right? So that one time that he used idle transfiguration on, I believe it was oh my god, I'm blanking on the name, Mahito. That was like the only time. But she concurs that unlike Okotsu, since he has an external storage for other techniques or copying techniques, he can't do it because the brain can't take all those different techniques, right? And this goes back to the whole like brain and how it relates to curse techniques and being able to see curses and not see curses. But yeah, she basically concurs that worst case he has a 4th technique, but more maybe not. It's a 50-50, and they're both kind of trying to figure out what they're able to do, and they're both bothered by the fact that they're a pain in the ass, basically. So here's our plan real quick, and then I'll end up this review. According to the plan, I'll get Kenjaku to expand his domain. Next, I'll back him into a corner until the after effect of the domain expansion takes hold and he enters a state in which it's hard to use curse technique. She's going to use Garuda as the trump card to win. So she might be in a stalemate with Kenjaku, but she will be using Garuda to help win, because Garuda has the same effect. So yeah, man, this chapter, man, it is something else. And yeah, Kenjaku, he says, it's interesting. Our curse techniques don't fit each other for fighting, and you haven't released your domain. So you know what? I'll do it because you're not confident in your domain expansion abilities. He releases it, and the name of it is All Enveloping Garhabud. Okay, let's try it. Garbad Hatu, which basically translates into womb. And then I guess they predicted this, and she says, now's the time, Tengen. And I'm guessing Tengen is going to try and cover his barrier over his. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's the chapter, guys. Amazing chapter. Again, please read this and read the explanations at the bottom. It's actually insane the amount of time and effort that was put into this. I'm just looking at all the notes, and yeah, it's pretty crazy.